Hamilton Tiger Cats head to Ottawa on Sunday for the East Final, a third straight Grey Cup berth on the line. I'm here with the spec, Steve Milton. Steve, I think the recipe for the Ticats to win this game is the same as it's been for the last little while. Good defense, good special teams, and enough offense to win you the game.
And don't turn it over on offense.
There you go.
You know, on top of that, don't put yourself in bad position. Don't waste the field position that the other two have got for you, for sure. Can't do that. So they have to have enough to win, too.
I wonder... The Red Blacks have been talking this week a lot, guaranteeing wins from Mo Price. There were some comments from Chris Williams. It's sort of the hallmarks of a team that hasn't really been there before.
Two things. I think they're playing a bit with a chip on their shoulder, partly because they had 2 wins last year. They didn't think they were a 2-win team last year. They didn't think at the start of the year. They didn't think at the end. And there's a kind of this nobody believes in this type of thing. So there's a bit of the circle of wagons thing, and I don't think that's a good thing because that only lasts so long. Yeah, and I think they're making some mistakes of teams that haven't been there much, and this is the reverse of the quarterback versus the quarterback inexperience versus Hamilton versus Ottawa. It's a flip as the whole team goes because this is Hamilton's 7th elimination game with this core group. They've had 0 elimination games that the Ottawas have had to face. I don't know if that plays into anything, but it could. And if you see a crack there, an emotional crack, if you're Hamilton, you got to jump through that crack.
Well, and I think this Ticat team, I mean, you talk to these guys, the core group of this team has been together more or less for the last 3 seasons, and there were a couple of additions last year, guys like Brian Hall, but I think that their motivations are completely internal, right? It's been about getting back to the Grey Cup and winning the Grey Cup. Anything less will be seen as a failure, I think.
They're not playing for anybody here. They're not playing for this fan base, this suddenly rabid fan base. They already do that. That's part of their DNA. I agree with you. They have a single focus there, but they're not looking past this team to the Grey Cup. I don't think. I'm getting the sense that they feel not that it's just another game, but that it is another game. Right. You know, I mean, it's not quite the just part of it, but it's not as big. I don't think the game's as big a deal to them. In some ways. I mean, they recognize that you have to win or you don't go on. But I don't think it's as big a deal in a lot of other ways other than the on-the-field thing as it is to Ottawa. And I think that's what you were trying to allude to earlier, right? Yeah. There are other things going on in Ottawa than are going on here.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me a little bit, I mean, remember when the Ticats became successful in 09 and 10, hadn't been to the playoffs for a long time. The city was really excited. The team was really excited. And both those games, here in Hamilton, they lost those games. I think in part because just being there was a big deal. In Ottawa,
they started poorly too, so it was like there was something else affecting them.
People are going crazy. Like the game is completely sold out. The town is going crazy.
As it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's terrific. I'm just saying that this game to them is really important. For the Ticats, it's the next game on their list.
You could squeeze the stick a little too tight in those situations. Not saying it's going to happen, but if Mazzoli can be accused of that for his inexperience, as opposed to Henry, then I think you have to say that about Ottawa as well.
Absolutely.
As a team.
I wonder, too, this team, in order to be successful, needs to solve Henry Burris, who has been unsolvable up until this point. He's had one of his greatest statistical seasons of his career. His completion percentage is the thing that stands out to me. Traditionally, Henry's not been a guy that completes an inordinate number of his passes.
Now he's
this year,
70 or something.
Yeah, it's about 10% over his historical average. So the Ticats, I don't think, got a lot of pressure on Henry in those 2 regular season games, and they'll have to put him on his behind in order to have.
I don't think it's about put him on his behind. I don't think it's about Henry. I mean, it is primarily, but not from the start. I think it's the other 11 guys. And the 12 on Hamilton. So I agree with you. You got to put pressure on him. He's not going to go to the pocket, although we did see him a couple times. A little bit here, and but I don't think that's going to happen. If he does, he's going to get hit.
Yeah,
you can guarantee that nobody in Hamilton is letting the Simone hit and the controversy around that bother them.
Yeah,
or they're not thinking about that. In fact, it might elevate them on it.
Yeah,
and the second thing is got to have better coverage back. If you do that, you got some kind of chance. You can't give them an hour to throw, or the guys in the back end aren't going to be able to cover. There's just no way. That's a pretty good receiving core. I think you got to remind that receiving core of a couple of things. You got to remind Chris Williams that he's not always a clutch receiver. You got to remind him sometimes that he short arms balls, and you know how you do that is you bang him hard at the start.
Make sure you check out the Hamilton Spectator for full game coverage on a Monday, and 3 Down Nation will have all the up-to-the-minute news from Ottawa, reporting from Tim Hortons Field last time this season.
Oh, I know. It's amazing. Did you see the fans earlier?
Yeah,
They're hanging around just a little bit longer. There's fans here. That one guy's been to every single practice, been to more practices than us two, and everybody but the coaches and the trainers on the team. That's amazing.
On that note, for the Spec Steve Milton, I'm Drew Edwards.